Dit is Post-Oost-EUROPA en ik praat vandaag met Jan Litynski. Hij is lid van het Poolse parlement en we gaan een aantal lijnen uit de Poolse politiek bespreken. Dzień dobry, panu. Mr. Litynski, could you tell me please how many members are there in the Polish parliament?
So we have 460 members in the parliament.
The parliament is called the Sejm. Why?
It's the same, and plus second chamber. The second chamber is called Senate, and Senate consists of 100 members.
Yeah. And the Sejm, is that a very old name?
Yes, it's a traditional name of the Polish parliament, which origins are in 16th century.
Okay. What political parties are in the Sejm?
So we have four caucuses, and plus some 3 or 4, it depends on the situation, circles, small circles. There's 4 main parties which were in the parliament as a big party. So it's the first one is Solidarity, Alliance of Electoral Alliance of Solidarity. The second one is Alliance of Democratic Left. It is post-communist party, Union for Freedom, it's my party, it's a kind of a liberal, central liberal party, and peasant party, so-called PSL, peasant party, and there are some extreme right circles.
Yeah. The Solidarność, the Solidarity Party, to what extent are they related to the Solidarność movement of the 80s?
So it is very complicated process, because Solidarity movement was a broad movement, social movement, which consists of many streams, rather rightist, but not only rightist streams. So on the basis of Solidarity, several parties were formed, between them Christian Nationalist Party, so-called Centrum Alliance, it's a radical rightist party, Union for Freedom, the Democratic Union, former Democratic Union, and Labor Union, which was leftist, which disappeared from the parliament. But the main core of Solidarity, and the Solidarity trade unions, supported and playing up to now leading role in the Solidarity Alliance, which is rather conservative, with some social aspect in the program, in the economic program.
And the former Communist Party, how have they changed when one compares it to the real communist period and how they are now?
So I could say so that many of them were former communists, former members of the Communist Party, and the leader of present leader of SLD, of the post-communist, was a secretary of Central Committee of the Communist Party. I think that they have very complex attitude towards the past. They don't want up to now to break with the past. But now they're fairly democratic party with bad past.
Yeah.
But I could say they don't form the threat for the democracy. They were in power for 4 years, and they use all the democratic means.
Yeah. The Polish president Kwaśniewski is from these circles. Do you call him a Democrat?
Yes, I could say so. I have I could say some bad remarks about him, but but I could say he's quite a good president.
You also mentioned a few right extremist parties in the parliament. How can you describe them?
So I could say they are extreme anti-communist party, and these parties, they are very small parties. Only one of them were able to pass 5% threshold, but the next parties were formed from the opposition, from Solidarity, people who were throughout from the Solidarity caucus, and I say that it is a mixture of demagogy, populist ideas, and extreme anti-communist vocabulary. So I guess, I'm not sure, plus one which is connected with extreme part of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure, but I think that this party will disappear in the next parliament.
Yeah. The government, the coalition, which parties are in there?
So there are many parties, but two caucuses, Solidarity and Union for Freedom.
Yeah.
The both parties, I told, has Solidarity movement roots, and it is Alliance of Solidarity, electoral Alliance of Solidarity, AWS, is consists of many parties. So for us, it is a very difficult partner in coalition, because there are many tendencies inside Solidarity, starting with moderate liberals towards conservative Catholics.
Yeah. So actually, you say that the government consists of two caucuses, you call them, which are both consisting of all smaller parts.
It is a party which have some wings, but it is the party, and the leader of the party, who is Vice Prime Minister, Mr. Balcerowicz, who was an author of Polish economic reform, is a very strong leader, so he doesn't allow to have many wings inside the party.
Yes. But with all these smaller factions, I suppose you have a rather vivid political life in the parliament.
Yes. Solidarity has many problems with caucus of Solidarity has many problems with the discipline inside the caucus.
Yeah. Does this isn't this a constant threat to the stability of the coalition?
Oh, it's hard to say. Now, the coalition, there's a kind of a crisis inside the coalition, because according to the polls, the government has very bad marks, and it is supported by less than 20% of the voters, and Solidarity lost the voters from 35% to 18-20%. So there is a permanent crisis, I could say.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think that the goals of government are fulfilled. But there are problems inside the coalition, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Buzek, who decided to make 4 big reforms, the government decided to make 4 big social reforms, now is, I could say in some way, is too weak to go on with the policy. So there is a permanent demand from some parties inside, especially inside Solidarity, to change him. But the leader of Solidarity, Mr. Szakleski, is opposed to it.
But you say the government has fulfilled its goals, but still the government is not popular at all. How come?
Yes, it is a direct result of one of the reforms were very difficult for people. Not all the reforms, but one reform was unsuccessful. It was the reform of the health service. We made pensions reform, social security system reform, and it was a kind of success. But on the other hand, it appears that there are many technical problems connected with the computer system in social welfare office, and we made a big reform of administration, local forming two additional levels of local self-government, and it is, I think it's a success. And we started with a decretional reform. So I think that for the public, it could be too much, and of course it was connected with a mess, with misunderstandings and so on. So it is the result is that the popularity, especially of Solidarity, decreased. And I should add that the Polish problem is corruption, and we were not able to stop with corruption, even to diminish the corruption, the level of corruption.
What kind of corruption?
So on levels connected with public public orders, system of public orders, with especially on the level of the self-governmental level, but only in the government.
Meaning that people say have to pay for government services.
Yep. Somewhere,
yeah. And this is still a problem.
I think that it's not only Polish problem,
yes.
but in the time of transformation, this problem appears very big.
Yeah.
Really big.
Getting back to this health service, of course, these reforms probably have as a result that people have to pay more now for hospitals and doctors.
No, I think that it is no problem of paying, but I think that it was based on bad ground, and we even in the time of signing coalition. The coalition, we decided not to we decided not to agree with this reform, and it appears that the Polish health service is very poor, and it is not a problem of reform. It is a problem of the welfare of the society. So people were expected rapid improving of the system. It appears that there are rather mess, not improving, and it appears that passing from the administration to a kind of security system appeared costed very much, and it doesn't improve really the functioning of the system.
Yeah, you yourself are a member of a parliamentary committee that deals with pensions. I remember stories from the beginning of the transition period when Poland started to be a free market, that especially for older people it was a very difficult period. How is this now?
So it's not true, because of course it was the period, but I think that in the beginning of 90s the people of pension were the people which have a kind of security system from the state, and the system of valorization of the pensions was quite good. In 1991, we implemented the system, pay-as-you-go system, based mainly on the German system, and it works good. But now it appeared inefficient, and what's more, it will be inefficient in the term of 10, 15 years. So we decided to change it and the system. We formed created system consists of so-called 3 pillars. First is traditional pay-as-you-go system, and it is about 2/3 of the pension of the future pension. The second is system based more or less on the Latin American Chilean system with private capitalism, and the third pillar is it is forming now. It is because we just 3 weeks ago we changed the law. It is a system of factory pensions plans.
Is Polish society still capable of guaranteeing the people who are in the worst conditions a fundamental income and life?
It's a problem. It's a problem because mainly because of 4 big reforms. Now the Polish economy is in quite good shape and quite good, but the budget the finance situation of the state is not very good, especially that some of the reform, technical aspects of reform collapse. So we have budget problems, and of course it's a problem. We have quite modern and quite good system of social welfare system, but now there is no money. So to my commission, there are many orders from local self-government, which are in charge of the social welfare system. There is no money no money from budget. It's a big problem now. It's a big problem. It was a big problem in 1999, and now it's a big problem. And my committee, my commission, the parliament, decided to veto the budget of the social welfare system.
Now is Poland a candidate for entering into the European community? That evokes also all kinds of a lot of technical problems, I suppose. You're working very hard on that, I suppose, in the parliament and in the government.
Yes, there is a special commission which is in charge of preparing law, and the same there is a big office in the government, and now we introduce such a law that it is impossible to make any law without not an agreement, but remarks from that it is consists to the European law or not.
One of the main things that Poland has criticized the European communities for is the high tariffs that has to be paid for Polish export products. Are you still, is Poland as a political country, are you still underlining that in your negotiations with the countries of the European community?
It's one of the problems, because I think that we are our economy is much open, and our borders are much open for the European trade than European community market. It's a problem. There's a very important problem for us. It's a problem of agriculture. And we have to prepare agriculture, but we hope that our agriculture will be strengthened from the European community, because it's a real problem. We have about 27% people living from the agriculture. It's of course it's too much, and we have to change it, but it is impossible to change it immediately.
Yeah. For example, I mean, Polish apples. I mean, a lot of apples are produced in Poland. If you want to export them to, say, Holland, you have to pay an extra a tax or something.
Yes, and European communities is very sensitive for dumping. I know some process against Polish enterprises, against Polish producers about dumping of this. I don't agree with it, but it's a problem, because Poland don't react on it. We would like to have a real free market.
Yeah. Well, Poland is about to enter the European community. You're looking to the West. But of course it's hard to deny that you are still a neighbor of Russia. How do you view the political developments in Russia?
So it's very hard to say, but I think that it was a kind of a paradox that Yeltsin, who is not real Democrat, in some way saved democracy in Russia, and I hope that the development is toward democracy, but it's a very specific democracy. Russia hasn't got any tradition of democracy. They have to learn it, and in the Russian parliament, in Duma, there is about 20% of Democrats. The rest are post-communists, is Zhirinovsky. It's very hard to say what to say something about Putin's bloc. the memorial of Putin was very interesting, I think, and it consists of many of very good parts about free market, about democracy, and with some bad parts about I could say Russian with remarks about Russian imperial tradition.
Yeah.
But I am an optimist.
Mm-hmm. Like what is happening now in Chechnya, which could be called a phenomenon of Russian imperial tradition. Doesn't that worry you?
Yes, you know, Russia played very in the beginning of present crisis, played a very tricky game. They said that this problem of terrorism, of bandits and so on, mafias and so on. But now it's of course it's a kind of homicide of the Chechen nation. So it's a big problem because it proves that democracy and resignation of the imperial tradition in Russia is now very thin.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, there was a little problem on a diplomatic level between Poland and Russia. Diplomats were sent out of both countries. What happened exactly?
So it appeared that some diplomats in Russian embassy made very aggressive spying in Poland. I think even now in the West, many observers thought that it is that now traditional spying is practically abandoning. It's not true. It appears that with classical spying equipment, classical equipment, they made spying against Poland. So we decided to make, our government decided to make a very sharp step but we tried to diminish the results because we decided not to publish the names of the diplomats. We decided to give them 1 week time for leaving Poland. So I think that, of course, it is for our relations with Russia, it was very bad step. But on the other hand, it proved that we are independent, real independent country, and we had to do it.
Is an event like this, can it be marked as a deterioration in the relations between Russia and Poland, or is it an exaggeration?
I hope that it will be only in short term. In long run, I think we need ourselves. Russia needs Poland, and Poland needs Russia. So we are not we could our collaboration, cooperation with democratic Russia. It's our natural goal, and I think that it is the goal of the democrats in Russia as well.
Yeah. Do many people from Russia or maybe from other countries from the former Soviet Union come to Poland to find a job?
Yes, it's not very much, but there was, I could say, some way traditional trade, small trade. Now it was diminishing, but and I think that it was very good for our relations, not only with Russians, with Ukrainians, with Belarusian, because it is a very good. I think that in Holland, you know it much better than in Poland. So the trade, exchange of goods is a very good way to know ourselves and to know each other. And we have traditional tension between Poles and Russians, natural tension, because we were occupied for so many years by Russia. And now I think that an attitude has changed.
You already mentioned the occupation. Poland has a very old parliamentary tradition. It had even had the first constitution in Europe, I believe,
yes.
in the 18th century. And then the 19th century was not a very good period. Is there somehow a relation in the tradition that the same works now, and the Polish parliamentary practice in the 18th century?
Yes, I could say that we have good and bad experiences with our democracy.
Yeah.
Because it was noble democracy, of course. It was, but it was real democracy. I could say it was too democratic. The system was too democratic because in Polish Parliament, in Sejm, there was a custom which could that everybody could break.
Yeah.
The same saying liberum veto against any law.
Yeah.
So I hope that we don't go on with this.
That's very democratic.
Yes, it's too democratic.
For the 18th century.
Yes, I can say it's too democratic. I think that such a kind of anarchy was one of the reasons, maybe the main reason that that Poland lost its independence.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that we don't go on with
mm-hmm.
with this tradition. But I think that we were very proud from our traditions that the king was primus inter pares, was
mm-hmm.
not, but it was on one way it was a good lesson of democracy, but on the other hand it was as I told, it was the source of weakness. So mm-hmm. I think that I hope that we could take the democrat tradition from our history, but not take the weakness of the democracy.
Mm-hmm. Do you regard the Polish democracy now, 10 years after the disappearance of communism, as a full grown-up democracy, say Western style?
Yes, I think yes. That now we have a normal democracy. I think that Polish democracy doesn't differ from democracy in Holland, in France. So I think that we have four rather big political parties, and we have stable political situation. Of course, I could say we are learning up to now, but I think that in some way we are keen pupils, and we are good self-teachers.
Yeah. When will there be new parliamentary elections?
Next year.
Next year. Do you think this coalition will be there until the end?
Yes, I think, but I am afraid that the next elections, now according to the polls, it will the elections would be won by alliance of the Social Democratic left.
Mm-hmm. And couldn't it be useful, say, for one of the two coalition caucuses to break up the coalition now for one reason or another, to maybe gain something by that?
You know, it's a permanent danger, but I think that it will be only a threat until the end of this cadency, because we have, I could say, in some way, we have a common goal to go on with the reforms and with the changes. So, and we have, in some way, it is very important for us. We have common roots.
Yeah, and if one would really want to do that, are there causes that may be used or abused to break up the coalition?
So, you know, now there is a very important moment, because this year there will be a presidential election, and now we are trying to speak about common candidate. I don't think that it will be successful. So presidential election will be a real, I could say, real check for the coalition. I think that if we pass through the presidential election, we will go on until the end of the cadency.
Okay, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.